Is it too late to start investing? If you've been putting off investing because you think you're too late or you've missed out or the market's peaked, you're not alone. I feel like it's never too late to start and you can still build significant wealth no matter what your situation is. Today, I want to help you break down the simple three-lever formula to building wealth through investing and show you exactly how to leverage the time and money you have available to your advantage. It's fairly straightforward, and most importantly, I believe it's going to work for you. So even if you think investing is risky or complicated, I'm here to help you understand how accessible it can be. So there's no more excuses. And by the end, you'll have a clear understanding of what steps you need to take to start building your wealth today. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are inside the whiteboard. Now today, I want to help you understand this question: is it too late to start investing? And my answer is, if we zoom in, no, it's not. But the reality is I need to give you a bit more information than just a yes, no answer. So what I've put together is what I consider the three levers of wealth building through investing. If we just start at the end and we go to this really fancy chart or diagram that I've put together, which helps explain three key components to how investing is going to work for you. And it's not about the stocks you pick. It's not about the exact product. It's not about the broker you use. It's not about the tool you use to manage it all. It's about three components that you have some influence over and are able to push and pull those levers individually. First, we have time. So really, time is your greatest ally in investing because it allows your money to grow exponentially through the use of compound interest. Now, the longer your investment horizon, the more time your investments have to compound and increase in value. So, when we talk about investing, time is a fantastic lever to be able to pull. So if you've got 50 years to invest, that's fantastic. But here's the thing. Some people don't have that time. And, I'd say a fair majority of people aren't investing for 40 years. They're looking at 3 years, 5 years, 22 years or something like that. So time isn't the be all and end all. And I'll explain a bit more further each of these three levers in a moment once I give you the high level. So time's there, but there's also two other factors or two other levers that you can push and pull as an investor. And one other is returns. And these are the gains you get from your investment. So for example, if you invest $1,000 and earn a return of 8%, you'll have $1,080 after a year, or you've earned $80 through your returns. And the goal is to aim for a steady and reasonable return to maximize your investment growth. Then third one is contributions. And this is how much money you're putting into investment. The biggest one that you have influence or control over, because you can determine how much money it is, whether it's $5 a week or $5,000 a month. Maybe you are starting investing in your 40s or 50s or pre-retirement. And so you don't necessarily have time on your side. If we sort of remove time for the equation, we've still got the ability for returns and contributions to help build us some wealth. So it's not to say if you don't have time, if you don't have 40 years for your money to grow, it's not going to work. It just means we need to emphasize the other aspects of this little triangle here, or these levers that we have ability to move around. So even if your time is small, or even if your ability to contribute is small, you can focus on different areas. Ideally, to have all three running for you at any one time, but it's not to say that you need to have them all equally doing the grunt of the work for you. With all that said, let's start looking at time. What is time? Time is how long you invest your money for. And when people talk about this, they talk about compound interest. And this is one of the more better diagrams I've found in terms of how explaining compound interest work. You can see in this diagram here, you put in $10,000, it is earning 6%. At the end of year one, you've got $600. You don't do anything with your investment. So year two, you start with $10,600. At the same 6%, that grows you an additional $636. So the $10,000 earned you another $600, and then the $600 that you earned in year one earned you another $36. This is how compounding works. It's like a snowball. It just keeps rolling down the hill and picking up bits of interest as it goes. This really paints the picture that the more time you have means the more returns you can get through compound interest. This is a 3-year example. And then if we go down to the power of compound interest, another chart I found here, it shows you how it looks over the course of, say, 30 or 40 years. And so when people point to investing, they just go, look at this chart. This is how investing works. But It's not always realistic where someone that starts investing at 21 and does the exact same thing for the next 40 years. It's easy to show on a diagram and on paper. The numbers look fantastic, but the thing is, there's some instances where you just don't have the ability to put money away for 50 years and just wait for it to grow. Superannuation here in Australia is a fantastic case study of how compound interest works because we're actually not allowed to touch our money until we're 60. But in terms of investing outside of that scenario, it's not always the lever that you have ability to influence, especially if you're 40 or 50 plus. I want to focus on two of the other levers, which are returns and your contributions, and see how you can best use them to your ability to give yourself a really strong outcome in investing. Now, lever two, I've labeled is your contributions or how much you are willing to invest. How much you're going to put into your investment over the course of time. I just want to point out this diagram, which is the impact of contributions, and give you an understanding of how influential increasing your contributions can be. I just want to reveal a table slowly on someone who's, for example, earning $100,000 per year and going to invest a portion of their money. We've got someone here who is investing 10% of their income per year, and the return they're getting on their investment is 6%. So we've got the returns after 10 years of 143,000, 15 years and 20 years. So that's nice. If you put away 10% of your income, around 10 grand a year, 6% after 10 years, you'd earn $143,000. That's cool. But what if we were to double our savings rate, but have the same investment return? As you might imagine, the returns nearly double. So doubling your savings rate can effectively double the amount of money you receive down the track. What though, if instead of increasing our savings rate, which might be hard to do due to your circumstances, you just chase a higher return and try and double the 6% to 12%? That's not always in your control. As you can see though, if you double your investment return as opposed to your savings rate, it's not nearly as much as a result as if you were to just double your savings rate. Hopefully this gives you an idea of the power of contributions and how they work in terms of growing that pool of money you have. Have a think about what you can do in terms of contributing and how it might give you the ability to grow your income quicker, especially if you are on a higher income or later in life, don't have the time, then beefing up that savings rate is going to be a significant step for you. In terms of making the most of contributing, there's a few different things you can have a think about. The first one is start. Even if you can't make 10%, if you're nowhere near this or 20% or anything like that, 1% or 2% or $30 or $500 just to get you started and get you in that building effect where you're putting snow into the snowball is a great way to give you more confidence and stop feeling so risk averse. Another example of how you can improve your contributions is just increase the investment rate as a proportion of your salary or income over the course of each year. For example, if you start with 5%, you might go 6% and 7%, or every time you get a pay rise or you get a tax cut, you just tweak your investing proportion there. Automating your investments is a big one. These days, with the way brokers work, with all the tools available to us, you can pretty much just set up a scheduled transfer in your bank account to send money to your investment platform of choice and get that money put to work as soon as you either get paid or like to send money to it. Reinvesting dividends is also a great one. I know people love taking dividends and getting income from something, but I like putting the dividends I receive back into the vehicle that is growing my money and earning those dividends in the first place. These days, again, with the platforms we have available, you don't need $500 a week to start. There's tools like Raise and that, you can start with $5. If that's all you can afford, at least it's a start. And then when you're ready to add more, you've got the confidence, you've got the experience behind you on what to do. Now it's time to move on to the third lever, which is the rate of return. And this is the money that you get back from your investments. The rate of return on your investments can dramatically influence your wealth building journey. So obviously aiming for a higher return can significantly accelerate your growth. Now, in terms of how to look for something that's got a good rate of return, I've just pulled out some graphs from Money Magazine to show you the different, sectors or asset classes that you can invest in here in Australia. If you read with me, you've got the Australian equity sector, which is basically the Australian stock market. You can see Over the long term, it's returned around 8%. I always like to look at the longest time frame that's presented in a graph or a chart. Hopefully, anything you look at through research has 10 years plus performance, because that just gives you an indication of the long term. So 8% for the Australian stock market, which is pretty good. It's put $1,000 in, you get $80 back at the end of the year. You've got international equities, which is the stock market, the US, Europe, Asia, and so forth like that. Combined through this benchmark here, you can see a 10-year return of 13.3%. And then property, 9.3 over 10 years. Fixed interest, which is sort of money in the bank, 2.6%, 2.3%. So when people talk about, savings and save money in the bank, you could essentially, I don't want to make any claims here. I'm not giving you financial advice, but you could seriously increase the amount of money your investment is bringing in just by simply moving your money from bank account to something like the Australian stock market or the stock market in general. Now, again, I'm not advising you to do this. I'm just showing you that money put in different places has historically proven to give you a different rate of return depending on what that is. I've got another couple of charts here of the different popular funds here in Australia. VAS is a popular ETF, which has, returned over 12% over the last 10 years, which is great. Oh, sorry, that's the International Shares Fund, the top one. VAS is the second one, or the ETF equivalent. And then you've got other brands there. I know people love to look at brand names and what's included and what's not. I just look at the basic numbers, how much it's going to cost. Keeping costs down is a fantastic way to increase your returns because you're not spending money. So there's some funds by size. These are some other funds as well from Handstar, which just show the different returns. The reality is you should be able to get something over the long term that is better than a bank account. If you feel like you can't pick between Australian and international and property and all that, then there's a number of options that are named diversified options. So these are ETFs or index funds that provide you a combination of a number of these sectors here. So, for example, I've got 4 products from the company Vanguard, which show you a breakdown of what's included in each of these ETFs here. So, for example, includes a mix of cash, fixed interest, Australian shares, international shares, and so forth. If you're just a more of a all-in-one set and forget type investor, then these diversified income options might be good for you. And they're quite easily to compare. They're very similar to what you see with your super fund in terms of what they present you, in terms of the balance, the conservative and stuff like that. What you need to do is obviously your own research and look at the numbers there and see what the costs are. These are still very low cost funds and ETFs. And again, you can see the 5-year long-term returns of an investment like this. So depending on your risk tolerance, which is the fluctuation in the day-to-day or week-to-week performance, then will depend on where you go down the path here. So that's what it sort of looks like when you're trying to have a think about the rate of return that you get. Set yourself up with a good rate of return, determine how long you want to do this for, and then, think about how much you can invest on a regular basis, and you're giving yourself a really good 3-pronged attack to getting some serious wealth through investing. That's some considerations for the rate of return. And that really brings us back to this wealth building formula that, again, I've spent hours and hours devising and drawing and trying to get these arrows the right shape, because I feel if you just focus on these 3 elements, then you're going to have a pretty decent result, because that's what I've been doing over the course of time, years and decades now, and feel that while sometimes you might not have the ability to contribute so much, you might not be getting the best returns, the other 2 will pick up the slack for you. And sometimes it might be that, all you've got is time, the returns aren't coming, the contributions aren't happening. But if you stay the course, you can work it out. And based off history, it generally shows you the 3 of these together will give you a fantastic result. But until then, happy investing.